It's been a while since I've done a news segment on psychedelic chemicals, so it's pretty cool that a new study has been published about the Bufo alvarius, or the Sonoran desert toad, or the Colorado river toad. Whatever you call it, this toad has parotid glands that secrete a kind of venom. The toads are caught at night, milked for their venom, and then released. The venom itself that's been collected from this milking will dry and crystallize over the night. And it's this powdery crystallized form that gets heated or smoked so that a human can inhale the vapors. A tryptamine compound in this venom is called 5-methoxy-NN-dimethyltryptamine, also known as 5-MeO-DMT. This is a powerfully psychedelic compound whose potency was known to various Native American peoples who shared a habitat with the Bufo toad. They would inhale the vapors, experiencing a warm, euphoric sensation and strong visual and auditory hallucinations. Like most psychedelics, the 5-MeO-DMT can break down a person's artificial cultural programming, dissolving their ego and making them feel profound sensations of oneness with the universe. The spiritual impact of such an experience can be powerful and life-changing. The study that I want to talk about today wants to assess the, quote, subacute and long-term effects of inhaling vapor from dried toad secretion containing 5-MeO-DMT on affect and cognition, unquote, with a secondary objective to observe any long-term changes that are caused by the psychedelic experience. To do this, the researchers had the patients complete an assessment of their cognitive and emotional state immediately before, 24 hours after, and then 4 weeks after inhaling the toad secretions. So basically, they had the patients fill out this form saying, what their spiritual outlook was, what their emotional state is, kind of exploring their baseline. And then immediately after doing that, they would have them take a single inhalation of this venomous toad secretion. 24 hours later, after a wild psychedelic experience and some hours to recover from it and to process it, they would have the patients fill out another emotional and cognitive survey. And then they would, ideally, they would come back 4 weeks later and have them fill out another one to determine the long-term effect. Here's a passage from the results section of the paper. Quote, relative to baseline, ratings of satisfaction with life and convergent thinking significantly increased right after intake and were maintained at follow-up 4 weeks later. Ratings of mindfulness also increased over time and reached statistical significance at 4 weeks. Ratings of depression, anxiety, and stress decreased after the session and reached significance at 4 weeks. Participants that experienced high levels of ego dissolution or oceanic boundlessness during the session displayed higher ratings of satisfaction with life and lower ratings of depression and stress. Unquote. Now, these are pretty positive results, it's all looking good, but there's something to keep in mind here. The study has problems, most obvious among them being the lack of a control group. The study also began with 75 patients, but only 42 of them ended up actually completing the testing surveys before the inhalation and 24 hours afterward. So you had a huge drop-off virtually right away. And of these patients, only 24 of them completed the test survey 4 weeks later. So essentially, only a third of the test subjects actually made it all the way through the study. And this raises problems, like selection bias. Selection bias can be a problem for psychedelic studies in general. Taking a psychedelic can be a very intense experience, even in the smaller doses typically used in scientific studies like this. It isn't surprising that some people would burn out, or might be scared off from answering surveys that make them think deeply and reflect on a profound, chemically induced, life-changing experience that probably intimidated them. People who can handle these experiences, people who really enjoy them, are much more likely to persist with the study, and in that vein, they're much more likely to give positive feedback. But flaws aside, this study is poking around a very real phenomenon. The incredible impact that psychedelics can have on a person's psyche, especially over the long term, are well known. And this goes for not just 5-MeO-DMT, but also regular DMT, and psilocybin mushrooms, and LSD, and ecstasy, and ibogaine, etc. If you're still skeptical, you can find out for yourself. It's not like religion, or it's not even like meditation. If you take the right dose, if you take enough, you will experience their power. If you don't, then take more and try again. So if you doubt this study, then trek into the Sonoran Desert, find a bufo toad, inhale its venom vapor, and after a mind-melting psychedelic experience, I'm fairly confident you'll see what they're talking about.